Marcus Reed pulled the thin blanket tighter around his shoulders and watched steam rise from a sewer grate near Lower Wacker Drive. The cold hit hard that night, the kind of Chicago cold that burned your ears first, then your hands, then your hope. A bus hissed past above him. Somebody laughed somewhere far away. The smell of wet concrete and old cigarettes hung under the bridge like it lived there forever. His stomach hurt again. Not sharp anymore, just empty. That scared him more. A man could get used to hunger faster than he thought. Marcus sat up slowly and rubbed both hands together. His fingers felt stiff. His beard had grown uneven. Gray showed through now. He hated that part most. The gray made him look defeated. He was only 42. A police siren echoed off the walls nearby. Marcus looked toward the street and pulled his backpack closer. Everything he still owned sat inside that bag. 2 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, a cracked phone charger, a folder with old papers, and a black notebook held together with duct tape. That notebook mattered more than the rest combined. He opened it every morning, no matter what, even on days he wanted to disappear, especially those days. The city lights bounced off the river nearby. Yellow and white streaks moved across black water. Marcus stared at them while trucks rolled overhead. Most people never noticed the homeless under those roads. They walked fast, headphones in, coffee in hand, eyes ahead. Marcus understood why.
People got scared seeing somebody become what they feared, and Marcus looked exactly like fear now. 3 years earlier, he wore clean boots and drove a white plumbing van across the South Side. He had regular customers. He coached Little League twice a week. His daughter used to wait by the apartment window every Friday because she knew he'd bring pizza home. Back then, people called him reliable. That word used to mean something to him. Now, shelter workers called him Marcus because most still remembered his name. Funny how small kindness could become enormous once everything else vanished. Marcus reached into his coat pocket and found half a protein bar wrapped in napkins. He ate slowly, tiny bites. Making food last had become automatic. Nearby, another homeless man coughed hard beneath a shopping cart full of blankets. "You alive over there?" the man asked. Marcus nodded once. "Barely." The man laughed softly. "That's still alive." His name was Leonard, Vietnam veteran, 68 years old. Slept beneath the same bridge most nights, unless cops pushed everybody out. Leonard pointed toward Marcus's notebook. "You writing again?" "Trying to." "You ever finish that business idea?" Marcus looked down. "Not yet." Leonard scratched his beard. "You talk about plumbing like some preacher talks about church." Marcus smiled a little. "That's because I was good at it." "Then why ain't you doing it?" Marcus did not answer right away, because answering meant remembering.
And remembering hurt worse than cold. He finally looked toward the river again. Sometimes one bad year follows you forever. Leonard nodded like he understood perfectly, because he probably did. Marcus checked his phone. 8% battery left. Thursday night. He stared at the screen for several seconds before pressing call. His daughter answered after the 3rd ring. "Hey, Daddy." Her voice nearly broke him every single time. "Hey, Peanut." She hated when he called her that now. She was 15, too old for nicknames, but she still let him say it. "You okay?" she asked. Marcus leaned against the concrete wall. "Yeah, just checking on you." "You sound cold." "I'm all right." That was a lie, but parents lied about pain all the time. "Mom said you missed court again." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yeah, you gotta stop doing that." "I know." Silence settled between them for a moment. He heard television sounds behind her, a laugh track, dishes moving. Normal life. His chest tightened hearing it. "I got an A in biology," she said quietly. Marcus smiled instantly. "There you go. I told you I would. You always do." He heard her breathing softly into the phone. Then she asked the question she always asked. "When are things getting better?" Marcus looked down at his dirty shoes. A drop of water fell somewhere nearby. Traffic roared overhead. He swallowed hard. Soon. Another lie, but softer this time. He heard somebody calling her name in the background.
"I gotta go," she said. "All right. I love you." Marcus stared into darkness beneath the bridge. "Love you more." The call ended. He kept holding the dead phone against his ear anyway. That was the last thing keeping him moving. Not hope, not pride. Her. Always her.
He tucked the phone away carefully, like it was gold. Then he opened the notebook. Inside were pages full of plumbing diagrams, service plans, prices, customer ideas, business names scratched out over and over. Reed Home Services, South Lake Plumbing, Chicago Pipe Rescue. Some names circled, some crossed out violently. At the top of one page, he had written the same sentence 20 times. Get back up. The letters looked shakier each week. Marcus rubbed his eyes hard. Sleep came badly outside. You never fully rested. Your body stayed ready for danger, ready for theft, ready for police, ready for another homeless man snapping mentally at 3 a.m, ready for rain. Always rain. He flipped deeper into the notebook until he reached an old photograph folded between pages. His daughter at age 8, missing front tooth, holding a softball trophy. Marcus looked younger there, stronger, cleaner, still believed heartbreak protected people. That belief died on a Tuesday afternoon in March. He remembered every detail. The smell of bleach in the hospital hallway, the buzzing lights, the nurse avoiding eye contact, the bill. God, that bill. Everything started there.
His mother had collapsed at her apartment from a stroke. Marcus spent weeks driving between work and the hospital. Insurance covered some things, not enough, never enough. Then overtime disappeared at work. Then his mother needed full-time care. Then Marcus started missing payments. Small at first, then bigger, then impossible. His wife, Jenna, tried holding things together. She worked double shifts at a nursing home in Bronzeville. They barely saw each other anymore. Stress lived inside every conversation. One night she stood in their kitchen crying beside unopened bills. "We can't survive like this," she whispered. Marcus still remembered the refrigerator humming behind her, the clock blinking 12 because power had shut off earlier. He grabbed the bills from the table. "I'll figure it out." "You keep saying that." "I mean it. You already borrowed from everybody." That part hurt because it was true. Friends stopped answering eventually. People got tired of drowning beside you. Jenna sat down heavily. "I don't even know you anymore." Marcus stared at her. He wanted to argue. Instead, he just looked tired. 2 months later, she left. Not screaming, not dramatic. That somehow hurt worse. She packed quietly while their daughter stayed at school. Jenna stood near the doorway holding car keys. "I can't keep sinking with you." Marcus nodded once because he understood. That was the worst part. He understood. Then the door closed behind her.
3 weeks later, his van got repossessed. 4 months later, the apartment was gone. Marcus tried staying with friends after that. Couches, basements, one cousin's floor in Cicero. But shame spreads fast. People started locking bedrooms, hiding wallets, watching him differently. Homelessness changed how others saw you before it changed how you saw yourself. That realization nearly killed him. Marcus stopped writing for a moment and looked around beneath the bridge. Leonard already slept curled beneath blankets. Wind moved through the tunnel slowly. Somewhere nearby, a train rattled. Marcus rubbed his hands again. Tomorrow morning, he'd go to the library. Same routine. Bathroom sink wash, cheap coffee from church volunteers, library computer, job applications. Most days, nobody called back. Sometimes interviews came. Those hurt more. Employers looked at his gaps, his address situation, his old credit issues, his court dates from unpaid debt. Then came polite smiles. "We'll let you know." They never did. Marcus leaned his head back against concrete. He wondered how many people above him once believed their life was stable forever. Probably most of them. That was the scary truth. Disaster rarely announced itself loudly. Usually it entered quietly. One bill, one injury, one missed paycheck, one bad month, then another. Marcus fell asleep sometime near dawn. He woke to footsteps and sunlight sneaking beneath the bridge. A police officer stood nearby. "Morning, gentlemen."
Leonard groaned awake. Marcus sat up immediately. The officer pointed down the tunnel. "City cleanup today. Translation, move, again." Marcus packed quickly. Blanket rolled tight, backpack zipped, notebook secured carefully inside. The officer looked tired too. Not cruel, just tired. "You guys got somewhere to go?"
Leonard muttered something under his breath. Marcus stood slowly. "We'll head out." The officer nodded. "Stay warm." Marcus almost laughed at that. Outside, Chicago moved fast already. Men in suits crossed streets carrying coffee. Delivery trucks backed into alleys. The smell of bacon drifted from a diner nearby. Marcus and Leonard walked north silently. "You come in shelter tonight?" Leonard asked. "Maybe. Snow coming tomorrow." Marcus looked at gray clouds above skyscrapers. "I know." They split near State Street. Marcus headed toward the Harold Washington Library. That building saved lives quietly every day. Warm bathrooms, free computers, no purchase required, no questions asked. Inside, heat wrapped around him instantly. He nearly moaned from relief. People filled tables everywhere. Students, elderly men reading newspapers, mothers with children, and homeless people pretending not to be homeless. Marcus washed up in the restroom first. Water freezing cold. He scrubbed hard anyway, combed his beard with fingers, changed shirts inside a stall. Presentation mattered, even when life collapsed, especially then.
Upstairs, he found his usual computer station, 2 hours allowed per session. Marcus opened his email first. Nothing. Then job boards. Nothing promising. Then Craigslist. Mostly scams. He rubbed his forehead hard. A younger guy nearby noticed Marcus staring at the screen. "You know plumbing?" the guy asked. Marcus glanced over. "Yeah." "My sink been leaking 2 weeks." Marcus smiled slightly. "You probably need a new trap." The guy blinked. "You can tell without seeing it?" Marcus shrugged. "Most leaks there start small first." The guy laughed. "Damn." His name was Tyler, 23, community college student, worked nights delivering food. They talked casually for 20 minutes, small things, Chicago sports, rent prices, weather. Normal conversation felt strange now, like visiting an old version of himself. Before leaving, Tyler scribbled something onto paper. "My uncle owns apartment buildings in Pilsen. He always needs repair guys." Marcus stared down at the number. "You serious?" "Yeah, he complains nonstop." Marcus held the paper carefully. Something moved inside him then. Tiny. Dangerous. Hope. He hated hope sometimes, because hope asked you to survive disappointment again. Still, he folded the paper carefully into his notebook. That afternoon, Marcus walked nearly 5 miles to Pilsen, because train money mattered now. Snow started falling lightly halfway there. Tiny, sharp flakes hit his face while traffic sprayed dirty slush near sidewalks. Chicago winters made poor people suffer publicly. By the time Marcus reached the address, his socks were wet. 3 flat buildings stood beside a corner grocery store, paint peeling badly, brick dark with age. A heavy-set man smoked outside one entrance. "You Eddie?" Marcus asked. The man looked him over slowly. "Who wants to know?" "Tyler sent me." Eddie exhaled smoke through his nose. "You a plumber?" Marcus nodded. "Licensed?" "Expired." Eddie smirked. "That means no." Marcus stayed quiet. Eddie studied him longer, then pointed toward basement stairs. "Pipe burst downstairs yesterday. Super never showed." Marcus followed him inside immediately. The basement smelled like mildew and rust. Water puddled near old heaters. Marcus crouched beside exposed piping and touched one section carefully. "Shut-off valves damaged too," he said instantly. Eddie raised an eyebrow. "You know your stuff." Marcus almost smiled. For 10 minutes he explained exactly what needed fixing. Precise, fast, confident. The old version of himself started appearing slowly while he talked. Eddie listened closely. Finally he crossed his arms. "You got tools?" Marcus looked down. "No." "You got transportation?" "No." "You got somewhere stable to live?" Marcus had nothing. Eddie sighed heavily. "Man." Marcus felt it coming then. The rejection. Same as always. But Eddie surprised him. "I ain't hiring you today." Marcus nodded once. "But you come back tomorrow morning." Marcus looked up.
"What for?" "I got another building with busted heaters." Marcus stared at him carefully. "You serious?" Eddie shrugged. "If you know pipes this good, maybe you're worth something." Worth something. Those words landed harder than Eddie realized. Marcus thanked him twice before leaving. Outside, snow fell thicker now. Cars crawled through slush. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, breathing hard. Not because he was tired, because for the first time in months, somebody looked at him and saw usefulness instead of failure. That feeling nearly broke him open. He walked all the way back downtown, smiling slightly, despite frozen hands. That night, he bought himself hot chili from a gas station. Real food, not crackers, not church sandwiches. Chili. Small victory, huge feeling. He even called his daughter again. "You sound weird," she said immediately. "Weird good? Maybe." Marcus leaned against a building near Michigan Avenue. "I might have work tomorrow." Silence. Then her voice changed completely. "Really?" "Maybe. Small job." "Daddy, that's great." He smiled into the phone. "Don't get too excited yet." Too late. He already heard hope entering her voice again. That terrified him, because falling alone was one thing. Watching her hope fall too was unbearable. After the call, Marcus headed toward the shelter. Snow blew harder now. The city looked softer, covered in white. Cleaner somehow. The shelter smelled like bleach, wet socks, and canned soup. Cots filled quickly during storms.
Marcus recognized many faces there, men carrying invisible disasters inside them. An older shelter worker named Denise handed him an extra blanket. "You look happier tonight," she said. Marcus shrugged. "Maybe got work tomorrow." Denise smiled warmly. "About time somebody noticed you." He looks down. "Maybe." Before lights out, Marcus opened the notebook again. This time he wrote something new. "Tomorrow matters." Simple sentence, but his handwriting looked steadier. Across the room, somebody snored loudly. Another man cried quietly in sleep. Wind rattled old windows. Marcus stared at the ceiling for a long time. Fear returned slowly as excitement faded. What if Eddie changed his mind? What if the job lasted one day? What if he screwed up? What if hope made everything hurt worse again? He closed his eyes hard. The shelter lights dimmed. Marcus thought about his daughter waiting by apartment windows years earlier. Pizza boxes, softball trophies, normal life. He wondered if normal could ever return. Then his phone buzzed unexpectedly. Unknown number. Marcus answered quietly. "Hello?" A woman spoke fast on the other end. "Is this Marcus Reed?" "Yeah." "This is Cook County Collections regarding missed court appearances." Marcus felt his stomach drop instantly. Around him, men shifted beneath blankets. The woman continued talking about fines, warrants, required appearance dates. Words blurred together, because Marcus already understood the important part. The past still had both hands around his throat, and it wasn't letting go easily. He stared into darkness while snow hammered the shelter windows harder outside. Tomorrow suddenly felt fragile again, very fragile. Marcus barely slept after that call. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw courtrooms, debt letters, his daughter watching him fail again. The shelter heater rattled all night. Somebody argued near the entrance around 3 a.m. Another man got escorted outside before dawn after screaming at staff. Marcus kept staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow mattered, but so did everything chasing him from behind. By 6:30, he gave up trying to sleep. He folded his blanket neatly anyway. Denise handed him weak coffee near the front desk. "You all right?" she asked. Marcus nodded too fast. "Fine." She looked unconvinced. That's usually a bad sign. Marcus forced a small smile. "Just nervous." She touched his shoulder gently. "Nervous means you still care." Outside, snow covered sidewalks in thick gray slush. Chicago looked half asleep under the storm clouds. Marcus pulled his coat tighter and started walking toward Pilsen before sunrise. His boots leaked badly. By the time he reached Eddie's building, both socks felt soaked. Eddie stood outside again, smoking beside a rusted pickup truck. "You came." Marcus shrugged. "Said I would." Eddie tossed him a pair of work gloves. "Good answer." Inside the truck sat another man around Marcus's age. Bald head.
Heavy shoulders, old bull's hoodie. "This is Lewis," Eddie said. "Try not to annoy each other." Lewis nodded once while driving away. For the first 20 minutes, nobody talked. Spanish music played softly through cracked speakers. Heat barely worked inside the truck. Finally, Lewis glanced sideways. "You homeless?" Marcus looked out the window. "Yeah." Lewis nodded like it was weather information. "I was too once." Marcus looked back at him. Lewis kept driving. "Slept in my van after divorce." Marcus stayed quiet. Lewis shrugged. "People fall." That was it. No judgment, no pity, just truth. They reached another building on the west side around 8. Tenants stood outside wrapped in blankets, complaining loudly about broken heat.
Marcus walked downstairs immediately after entering. Boiler issue, old pipes, weak pressure. He diagnosed it within minutes. Lewis watched closely while Marcus worked. "You really know your stuff," Lewis muttered. Marcus focused on the valves. "My dad taught me young." For 4 straight hours, Marcus worked without stopping. Hands numb, knees aching, sweat running beneath his coat despite the cold basement. And something strange happened. He forgot he was homeless. For little moments at a time, he simply became Marcus again. The man who fixed things. The man people counted on. One elderly tenant hugged him when heat finally returned upstairs. "You saved us," she said. Marcus almost cried right there beside the boiler. Nobody had needed him in so long. Around lunch, Eddie handed Marcus $40 cash outside the building. "Good work." Marcus stared at the money. Actual earned money. His chest tightened instantly. "Thank you." Eddie pointed a finger toward him. "Don't thank me yet. We still got tomorrow." Tomorrow. Another day. Marcus tucked the bills carefully into his coat pocket, like they might disappear. After work, he bought clean socks first, then toothpaste, then chicken and rice from a small takeout place. Hot food steamed inside the container while snow fell outside the windows. Marcus ate slowly at a corner table. Every bite tasted almost emotional. A waitress refilled his coffee twice for free. "You look freezing," she said. Marcus smiled. "Been colder." That night, he skipped the shelter and rented a cheap hostel bed downtown instead. $30 gone instantly. Hurt spending it, but one night indoors felt worth it. Hot shower, clean sheets, a locked door. He stood beneath steaming water nearly 20 minutes. Dirt circled the drain. Marcus leaned one hand against the wall and closed his eyes. He forgot what safety felt like. That scared him. People shouldn't get used to surviving without basic things. After the shower, he stared at himself in the mirror. Still tired, still rough, but different somehow. Alive again. A little. His phone buzzed while he lay on the bed later. His daughter. "You work today?" she asked immediately. Marcus smiled into darkness. "Yeah." "What'd you do?" "Fixed heaters." "I knew you could." Her confidence hurt his heart. Kids believed in you long after adults stopped. They talked 20 minutes that night. School gossip, her biology test, a teacher she hated, normal conversation. Marcus treasured every second. Before hanging up, she got quiet. "You sounded sad last week." Marcus swallowed. "Sorry about that." "You don't gotta pretend with me." Those words stayed with him after the call ended, because pretending exhausted him more than homelessness sometimes. Pretending he wasn't scared, pretending he had answers, pretending tomorrow wasn't hanging by threads. The next week became a blur of workdays, not steady, but enough. One building needed pipe repairs, another needed water heaters replaced. Marcus rode with Louise every morning across frozen Chicago streets, while coffee steamed from gas station cups between them. Louise talked constantly, about basketball, about his ex-wife, about cholesterol, about everything. Marcus mostly listened. One afternoon, while fixing a sink in Little Village, Louise looked over casually. "You should get relicensed." Marcus laughed softly. "With what money?" Louise tightened a pipe connection. "You keep thinking like homeless, Marcus." That sentence landed hard. Louise kept working. "Maybe start thinking like plumber Marcus again." Marcus did not answer, because he didn't know how. Years of failure rewired a person. You stopped planning ahead, stopped believing stability belonged to you anymore. Survival became the only goal. Dreams started feeling dangerous. Still, that night, Marcus searched relicensing costs at the library. More expensive than he expected. Of course, everything cost money when you were broke. Applications, fees, past due penalties. The system charged poor people extra for being poor. Marcus rubbed his forehead and almost closed the browser. Then Tyler appeared beside him unexpectedly. "Yo, plumber guy." Marcus looked up, smiling. "You stalking me now?" Tyler laughed and sat down. "My uncle says you saved his ass this week." Marcus shrugged. "Just fixing stuff." Tyler noticed the licensing webpage. "You doing that?" Marcus sighed. "Trying to." Tyler looked at the screen. "How much?"
Marcus hesitated. Almost 900 total. Tyler whistled. Damn. Marcus closed the tab. Yeah. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Tyler reached into his backpack and pulled out $50. Marcus stared. No. It's not charity. Still no. Tyler pushed the money forward anyway. My uncle paid me yesterday. I waste money constantly. Marcus shook his head harder. I can't. Tyler leaned closer. Then pay it back later. Marcus stared at the bills for several long seconds. Pride and desperation fought inside him constantly these days. Pride used to win. Now hunger sometimes did. Finally, Marcus accepted the money slowly. His voice cracked slightly. Thank you. Tyler nodded casually, like it was nothing.
But Marcus would remember that moment for years. The city started changing slowly after February. Snow melted into dirty rivers along curbs. Wind softened slightly. People stayed outside longer. Marcus kept working jobs with Eddie and Luis. Not every day. Some weeks only 2 shifts, some weeks 5. Enough to survive. Barely. He still used shelters often. Still carried everything inside one backpack. Still feared phone calls from collectors. Still missed court dates sometimes because work came first. But something had shifted. Movement. Forward. One Friday afternoon, Eddie called Marcus into his office above a laundromat in Pilsen. The office smelled like cigarettes and old paperwork. Eddie sat behind a metal desk covered in invoices. You got a driver's license? Expired. Fix it. Marcus frowned slightly. Why? Eddie leaned back. My regular maintenance guy quit. Marcus stayed still. Eddie pointed at him. You show up. Tenants like you. You don't steal. Marcus almost laughed at how low that bar sounded. Eddie continued. I can't pay much yet. How much? Eddie named a number. Marcus's chest tightened instantly. Not rich, not close, but steady. Steady mattered more than huge. When? Marcus asked quietly. Eddie shrugged. Monday if you want it. Marcus stared at the floor, then out the dirty office window, then back at Eddie. His throat suddenly felt tight. I want it. Eddie nodded once, then stopped looking homeless. That line stung.
Because Marcus knew what he meant. Appearance changed opportunity in America faster than truth did. That evening, Marcus walked nearly 2 miles, smiling to himself. Then panic arrived suddenly. Steady work meant taxes, paperwork, address information, court issues, debt collectors. The life he lost was waiting behind every corner. He sat on a bus bench near Chinatown, thinking hard, while traffic moved around him. A young mother nearby struggled, folding a stroller one-handed while holding groceries. Marcus stood immediately and helped without speaking. Thank you, she said tiredly. No problem. The baby stared at Marcus curiously while chewing a mitten. Marcus smiled at the child automatically. The mother caught the smile. For one tiny second, she saw him like any normal man sitting beside her. Not homeless, not broken, just human. Then her bus arrived. Marcus sat back down slowly after she left. That moment stayed with him, because homelessness often felt invisible and painfully visible at the same time. People either looked through you or feared becoming you. Very few simply saw you. Monday morning, Marcus wore his cleanest clothes to Eddie's office. New socks, used boots from Goodwill, shaved carefully at the shelter bathroom sink beforehand. He even borrowed cologne from another man staying there. He smelled like divorce court, Leonard joked. Marcus laughed harder than expected. Eddie tossed him keys that morning. Old pickup truck, rust everywhere, but running.
You wreck it, you're dead. Marcus stared at the keys in his hand. Transportation, freedom, responsibility, trust. He had not felt trusted in years. The first few weeks nearly destroyed him physically. Constant calls, broken toilets, flooded sinks, emergency repairs at midnight, angry tenants screaming over heat and leaks. But Marcus kept showing up. Always. That mattered to Eddie more than perfection. One night around 11, Marcus finished fixing a burst pipe in Bridgeport. He sat alone inside the truck afterward, staring at his hands. Dirty, cut up, exhausted, working. He started crying quietly before realizing it. Not loud, just silent tears rolling down his face, because purpose returned before dignity did, and purpose changed everything. Still, life kept punching back. One afternoon, Marcus finally attended court over old debt cases. The courtroom smelled like dust and stress.
People everywhere waiting to explain disasters nobody cared about anymore. A tired public defender flipped through Marcus's paperwork. "You owe more than 30,000 total." Marcus laughed softly, because hearing it out loud sounded impossible. The defender looked at him sympathetically. "You employed now?" "Barely. That's still better than before." The judge ordered payment plans Marcus could not realistically afford. Another weight added. Outside the courthouse, Marcus sat on cold steps, staring at traffic. For a few minutes, old hopelessness returned hard.
No matter how much he climbed, the hole stayed deep. His phone buzzed then. Picture message from his daughter, a biology project, big smile, caption underneath, "Proud of you." Marcus stared at those words a long time, then stood back up. Weeks turned into months. Spring arrived slowly across Chicago. Trees near Humboldt Park started blooming again. Kids played basketball outdoors. People rolled car windows down finally. Marcus saved every extra dollar carefully. Half went toward debts, half toward survival. He opened a cheap bank account again. The woman at the bank spoke slowly to him after seeing his paperwork, like he might not understand normal adult things anymore. Marcus hated that. Still, when she handed him a debit card with his name on it, he stared at it almost emotionally, proof he existed again. One evening, Luis invited Marcus to his apartment for dinner. Small place in back of the yards, smelled like garlic and onions. Luis's teenage son barely looked up from video games while eating tacos. Marcus smiled watching them argue about dishes afterward. Normal family noise. He missed it so much his chest hurt. While washing plates later, Luis spoke quietly. "You ever talk to your ex-wife?" "Sometimes." "She know you're working?" Marcus shrugged. "Probably." Luis dried a plate slowly. "You should let people see change while it's happening." Marcus looked down. "What if it disappears again?" Luis nodded like he expected that answer. "That's fear talking." "Maybe."
But fear kept Marcus prepared. Hope felt riskier. In May, Marcus finally rented a room. Tiny basement in Brighton Park. Shared bathroom. One small window facing an alley. But it locked. It was his. The first night there, he sat on the mattress eating grocery store chicken while staring around the room silently. No shelter noise, no strangers coughing nearby. No fear somebody would steal his backpack while sleeping. Marcus slept 14 straight hours. Longest sleep in years. He woke disoriented by silence, then smiling. Slowly, his routines changed. Morning push-ups returned, coffee before work, writing in the notebook nightly. Except now, the notes look different. Budget numbers, business ideas, license plans, future things. Future had returned quietly. One Saturday, his daughter visited for the first time. Marcus cleaned the room 3 times beforehand, despite barely owning anything. When she arrived, she looked older somehow. Teenagers changed fast. She hugged him tightly, longer than usual. "You smell normal now," she joked. Marcus laughed. "Thanks." They spent the afternoon walking through Millennial Park, eating hot dogs from a street cart. She talked nonstop about school drama, while Marcus listened carefully to every word. At one point, she stopped walking and looked at him seriously. "You seem different." Marcus looked out across the city. "Trying to be." "No, I mean lighter." He swallowed hard. Maybe she was right. Still tired, still broke, still carrying mountains.
But lighter. That evening, before Jenna picked her up, Marcus stood awkwardly beside the car. Jenna rolled down the window slowly. She looked older too. Stress aged everybody involved. "He looks good on you," she said quietly. Marcus frowned slightly. "What does?" "Hope." Then she drove away. Marcus stood there stunned while traffic moved around him. He thought about those words all night. Summer came hard and humid. Chicago streets smelled like hot concrete and food trucks. Marcus worked constantly now. Eddie trusted him alone on bigger jobs. Tenants requested him specifically. One older woman baked him peach cobbler after he fixed her kitchen sink. "You remind me of my son," she said. Marcus almost cried again. That kept happening lately, small kindnesses hitting too hard. Then came the phone call, the one Marcus replayed later 100 times. Eddie called him into the office again one Friday evening. Storm clouds gathered outside. Rain hammered the window softly. Eddie slid paperwork across the desk. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "Partnership offer." Marcus laughed immediately, then stopped when Eddie didn't. "You serious?" Eddie lit another cigarette. "I'm old. You're reliable. Business keeps growing." Marcus stared at the papers. Numbers blurred slightly. Ownership percentage, vehicle responsibilities, profit splits. His hands started shaking. I don't have money for this. You got skill. Marcus looked up slowly. Eddie shrugged. Sometimes that's worth more.
Outside, thunder rolled across Chicago. Marcus sat there stunned while rain hit the windows harder. Everything he dreamed about sat inches away now, and somehow that terrified him more than sleeping under bridges ever did. Because losing hope once nearly killed him, losing it twice might finish the job. Marcus did not sign the papers that night. He wanted to. His hand even reached for the pen. Then fear grabbed his wrist harder than any person could. Eddie watched him from behind the desk. Smoke curled toward the ceiling. Rain hit the windows with a steady tapping sound. A siren cried somewhere down Ashland Avenue and faded into the wet night. "You don't trust me?" Eddie asked. Marcus looked down at the papers. "I don't trust good things." Eddie leaned back slowly. "That's honest." Marcus rubbed both palms over his face. "I need time." Eddie nodded. "Take the weekend." Marcus folded the paperwork and slid it into his backpack. He walked out into the rain without an umbrella. The drops hit his face cold and hard. Cars rolled by with headlights smeared across the street. The city smelled like oil, wet pavement, and fried food from a corner carryout. He should have felt happy. Instead, he felt hunted. Because success did not erase fear right away. Sometimes it made fear louder. He rode the bus back to his basement room in silence. A man across from him slept with his head against the window. A woman held grocery bags between her knees.
A boy in a school hoodie stared at his phone and laughed at something Marcus could not see. Normal people. Normal Friday night. Marcus held his backpack against his chest, like the papers inside might burn through it. When he got home, he spread them on the small table beside his mattress. The room smelled like laundry soap and old brick. Rainwater tapped against the tiny alley window. He read every line twice. Partnership, profit share, maintenance contracts, business expansion. His name beside Eddie's. Marcus Reed. Not homeless Marcus. Not shelter Marcus. Not the man under Lower Wacker. Marcus Reed. He sat there until after midnight. Then he called Jenna. She answered on the second ring. "Marcus? Can you talk?" There was a pause. "Yeah. Is everything okay?" He looked at the papers. "I got offered something." "What kind of something?" "A real chance." Jenna stayed quiet while he explained. She did not interrupt. That helped. Years ago, she would have jumped in fast. Bills did that to people. Stress made every conversation a fight. When he finished, she breathed out slowly. "That sounds big." "It is." "Why do you sound scared?" Marcus laughed once. "Because I am." "Of Eddie?" "No." "Then what?" Marcus stared at his own name on the contract. "Of becoming someone again." The line went quiet. Then Jenna spoke softly. "You never stopped being someone." Marcus closed his eyes. Those words landed too deep. He wanted to believe her, but belief came slowly now.
"I lost so much," he whispered. "I know. I lost you." Jenna did not answer right away. Outside, water dripped from the alley pipe. Then she said the truth. "Some things don't come back the same." Marcus nodded, though she could not see him. "Yeah, but that doesn't mean nothing comes back." He swallowed hard. Their daughter laughed faintly in the background. That sound moved through him like warm light through a broken house. "She proud of you," Jenna said. "I know." "No, you don't know. Not really." Marcus wiped his eyes. Jenna's voice got quiet. "She tells people you fix buildings." He covered his mouth with one hand. Because that image broke him. His daughter telling people. Not hiding him, not ashamed, proud. After they hung up, Marcus sat at the table for another hour. Then he opened the black notebook. The old duct tape was peeling at the edges. The pages looked worn from cold, rain, shelters, buses, and hunger. He turned to a clean page. His pen hovered there. Then he wrote 3 words. "I choose forward." The next morning, he found Leonard near the shelter. Summer heat already sat heavy in the streets. Garbage trucks groaned down the block. The air smelled like coffee, diesel, and old rain. Leonard sat on a low wall with a paper cup in hand. Marcus handed him breakfast from McDonald's.
Sausage biscuit, hash brown, coffee. Leonard looked inside the bag. Somebody got rich. Marcus smiled. Not yet. Leonard tore open the biscuit wrapper.
Yet sounds dangerous. Marcus sat beside him. I got offered a business partnership. Leonard stopped chewing. For real? Yeah. Leonard stared at him, then grinned. I told you. Told me what? You talked about pipes like church. Marcus laughed softly. Leonard shook his head. Man, sign the thing. You didn't read it. I don't need to. Marcus looked at him. That's terrible advice. Leonard pointed the biscuit at him. No, terrible advice is fear wearing church clothes. Marcus smiled at that. Leonard chewed slowly and looked toward the street. You know what people think homelessness is? Marcus waited. They think it's the bottom. Isn't it? Leonard shook his head. No, the bottom is believing the bottom is your name. Marcus did not speak. Leonard kept looking ahead. You ain't named that. Cars passed. A woman pushed a stroller nearby. Church bells rang somewhere down the street. Marcus sat still. Sometimes truth came from places people never respected enough. That afternoon, he walked downtown and stood beneath Lower Walker again. He had not gone back since renting the room. The tunnel looked the same. Damp walls, dark corners, traffic above, cold breath from concrete, even in summer. But Marcus felt different standing there. He could still see himself curled against the wall, his backpack under his arm, his phone at 8%, his stomach empty, his daughter's voice asking when things would get better.
He walked to the old spot and crouched down. A crushed beer can sat nearby. Someone's blanket lay abandoned under a pillar. Marcus touched the concrete with his fingers. It felt rough and cool. He whispered one sentence. You made it through. Nobody heard him. That was fine. Some words are only meant for the part of you still stuck there. Monday morning, Marcus signed. Eddie did not make it dramatic. No big speech, no handshake photo, no fancy office, just a pen, a metal desk, and traffic outside. But Marcus felt the whole room change anyway. Eddie took the signed pages and nodded. Partner. Marcus stood there a second too long. Eddie nodded. You gonna cry? No. You look like you're gonna cry. Shut up. Eddie laughed hard. Then he tossed Marcus a new set of keys. Truck's yours now. Marcus caught them. The keys felt heavier than metal. They felt like trust made solid. The first year nearly broke him again. Not because things failed, because things grew. Work doubled by September. Eddie owned more buildings than Marcus realized. Word spread among tenants. Then landlords called. Then small stores called. Then a church asked for emergency repair. Then a daycare needed bathroom work before inspection. Marcus worked mornings, nights, weekends. He slept better now, but less. He learned invoices, insurance forms, scheduling, taxes, permits, customer calls. He made mistakes too, real ones. One job in Inglewood took 3 days longer than promised.
The owner yelled so loudly neighbors heard. Marcus underpriced another job and lost money. He forgot an inspection deadline once, and Eddie cursed for 10 full minutes. You want business? Eddie snapped. Then details matter. Marcus snapped back. I know details matter. Then act like it. They stood in the office glaring at each other. Rain hit the window again. Same sound as signing night. Marcus almost walked out. Old Marcus wanted to leave before being left, but new Marcus stayed. He breathed hard, then said, Teach me what I missed. Eddie stared at him. The anger left his face slowly. That's better. Pride used to make Marcus pretend he knew things. Pain had burned that out of him. Now he asked. Now he learned. Now he stayed. By Christmas, Marcus had saved enough for a real apartment. Not big, not fancy. A 1-bedroom in Bridgeport with creaky floors and a small kitchen. The radiator cleaned at night. The windows leaked cold air. The upstairs neighbor walked like a bowling ball. Marcus loved every inch of it. The first thing he bought was a kitchen table. Used, scratched, $40 from Facebook Marketplace. He and Luis carried it up the stairs, laughing and sweating. You got furniture now, Luis said. Marcus ran one hand over the old wood. Big time. Luis smiled. Don't forget us, little people. Marcus threw a rag at him. That Christmas Eve, his daughter came over. Marcus cooked badly. Chicken dry, mashed potatoes too salty, green beans from a can.
She ate like it was perfect. A small, fake tree stood near the window with 3 ornaments from Walgreens. Snow fell outside in soft sheets. The apartment smelled like burnt butter and pine-scented cleaner. His daughter handed him a wrapped gift. "You didn't have to get me anything," Marcus said. "Dad." "What?" "Open it." Inside was a framed photo. The old softball picture. Her missing front tooth, her tiny trophy. Marcus froze. "I found it at Mom's," she said. He stared at the frame. "I thought I lost this." "You did. Then you didn't." He looked at her. She looked back. Neither spoke for a moment. Then she hugged him, hard. Marcus held her carefully, like she was still 8 years old. That night, after Jenna picked her up, Marcus placed the photo on the table. Then he sat across from it for a long time. Some things did come back. Not the same, but real. The next spring brought the first major contract. A property group on the south side needed regular plumbing and maintenance for 12 buildings. Marcus wore his best shirt to the meeting, navy blue, ironed carefully. He even got a haircut that morning. The office had glass walls and a coffee machine worth more than his first car. 2 managers sat across from him. One looked at his paperwork. You had a gap in work history. Marcus felt the old shame rise. There it was, the gap, the invisible cliff in his life. He could lie. He had before. This time he did not. "I was homeless," Marcus said. Both managers looked up.
The room went still. Marcus kept his hands flat on the table. "I lost my mother, my marriage, my van, my home. Then I rebuilt." The younger manager looked uncomfortable. The older one leaned forward. Marcus continued. "I know what broken heat means at midnight. I know what water damage costs. I know what it feels like when nobody answers. If you hire us, people will get answers." Nobody spoke for a second. Then the older manager nodded slowly. "That's the best answer I've heard all week." They got the contract. Marcus walked out before reacting. He made it to the parking lot. Then he leaned against the truck and laughed until tears came. Luis called at that exact moment. "How'd it go?" Marcus tried to speak, couldn't. Luis shouted through the phone, "You got it?" Marcus wiped his face. "We got it." Luis yelled so loud Marcus had to pull the phone away. That contract changed everything. They hired 2 workers, then 4, then a dispatcher, then rented a small shop with a roll-up door near Archer Avenue. Nothing fancy. Concrete floor, tool racks, coffee pot always burning, calendar on the wall packed with jobs. Marcus painted the name himself above the office door, Reed City Services. Eddie stood beside him holding a ladder. "You sure about that name?" Marcus looked at the letters. "Yeah." Eddie nodded. "Looks good." Marcus stepped back. The paint smell filled the shop. His name stood on a wall. That might not mean much to some people.
To Marcus, it meant the world had stopped erasing him. He kept hiring people others overlooked. A single mother who needed flexible hours became their dispatcher. A quiet young man with a record became one of their best techs. A veteran named Carl handled warehouse supplies after nobody else would hire him. Marcus knew what rejection did to a person, so he watched for skill beneath damage. He was careful, though. He was not foolish. He checked references, he set rules, he expected effort. Grace did not mean having no standards. It meant seeing a person before judging their worst day. One afternoon, Denise from the shelter visited the shop. Marcus had invited her twice before she finally came. She walked in wearing her same purple coat. The shop smelled like coffee, oil, and sawdust. Phones rang in the office. Workers moved past carrying toolboxes. Denise looked around slowly. "Marcus Reed." He smiled. "Denise." She shook her head. "Look at this place." He suddenly felt shy. "It's getting there." She hugged him before he finished talking. A long hug, the kind that held history. When she pulled back, her eyes shined. "I always knew." Marcus laughed quietly. "No, you didn't." "Yes, I did." "You tell every homeless man that?" She smiled. "Only the stubborn ones with notebooks." He took her to the back office. On his desk sat the same black notebook, duct tape, worn pages, coffee stains. Denise touched it gently. "You kept it." "Had to." "Why?"
Marcus looked through the office window at his workers. "Because when I had no address, this was proof I still had direction." Denise nodded slowly. "That'll preach." Years passed, but not too many. Marcus did not become famous. He did not buy a mansion. He did not turn into someone unrecognizable. Success came in ordinary shapes first. Paid bills, a good mattress, car insurance current, dental work, a fridge with food inside before payday, a phone battery that stayed above 50%, peace when the mail came. Peace was the part nobody warned him about. Peace felt strange at first, like a room too quiet after years beside traffic. He had to learn how to relax. Some nights he woke at 3 in the morning sure he had missed something terrible. He would sit up in his clean bedroom and listen. No shelter noise, no bridge traffic, no coughing strangers, just the refrigerator humming, just the city outside, just safety. Slowly, his body believed it. His daughter graduated high school on a hot June afternoon. Marcus sat in the stands beside Jenna. Sun burned the back of his neck. Families shouted and waved signs. A marching band played slightly off-key. When his daughter's name was called, Marcus stood faster than anyone. He clapped until his hands hurt. She looked into the crowd and found him. Then she smiled. That smile carried every cold night inside it. Every call with 10% battery. Every lie about being okay. Every step through slush. Every job application.
Every debt letter. Every chance he almost refused. After the ceremony, she ran into his arms. "You did it," he said. She laughed against his shoulder. "I graduated, Dad, not you." He pulled back. "No, we both did." Jenna stood nearby, wiping tears. For once, nobody corrected anything. There was nothing to correct. Later that summer, Marcus helped his daughter move into community college housing. Not far, still Chicago, still close enough for laundry and free meals at Dad's. Her room smelled like fresh paint and new bedding. She taped photos on the wall. One of her friends asked, "Your dad owns that care company, right?" His daughter smiled. "Yeah." Marcus pretended not to hear, but he heard, and he stood taller carrying the box. A year after that, Jenna asked Marcus to coffee. Not emergency coffee, not court coffee, not daughter schedule coffee, just coffee. They met at a small place in Hyde Park. Rain tapped the windows softly. Students sat with laptops. Somebody's cinnamon latte filled the air with sweetness. Jenna stirred her drink too long. Marcus noticed. "You nervous?" She laughed softly. "A little. About me? About us." Marcus looked at her carefully. That word had weight. Us. She met his eyes. "I don't know what this is," she said. "Me neither. I don't want to pretend the past didn't happen. I don't either. I was angry for a long time. You had reason. So were you." Marcus nodded. "I had reasons too." They sat quietly. No one rushed. That was new. Years ago, silence meant danger. Now, silence made room. Jenna looked down at her cup. "I don't know if love can come back the way it was." Marcus thought about his apartment, his work, his daughter, the old photograph, the bridge, the notebook. Then he told the truth. Maybe it shouldn't. She looked at him. Maybe it has to become something more honest. Jenna's eyes softened. They did not get remarried right away. Life was not a movie. They took walks, had dinners, talked through old wounds without trying to win. Sometimes they fought. Sometimes they stopped talking for weeks. But they kept coming back to the table. That counted. The first time Jenna stayed over at Marcus's apartment again, he woke early and made coffee. The morning light came through thin curtains. She stood in the kitchen wearing his old sweatshirt. Marcus watched her quietly. She turned. "What?" "Nothing. Don't do that." He smiled. "I just never thought I'd see this again." Jenna walked over and touched his face. "Me neither." Then she kissed his cheek. Not dramatic, not perfect, real. That meant more. By 47, Marcus had 12 employees and 3 trucks with Reed City Services painted on the side. They had uniforms now, real payroll, health insurance, a retirement plan Eddie grumbled about but secretly respected. Eddie finally retired, though he still visited twice a week to complain. "You people organize too much," he said one morning. Marcus poured him coffee. "You mean better?" "I mean annoying." Eddie took the cup. Same thing. Their partnership had turned into friendship slowly. Rough friendship, insulting friendship, but real. One day Eddie stood in the shop doorway watching the crew load trucks. "You know," he said, "you saved my business too." Marcus looked over. Eddie shrugged. I was tired before you came around. Marcus smiled. You never told me that. I don't say emotional crap before noon. Marcus laughed. Eddie looked away. I'm proud of you. Marcus stopped moving. The shop noise continued around them. Tools clanged. A phone rang. Someone laughed near the trucks. Eddie kept looking outside. Don't make it weird. Marcus nodded slowly. Too late. Eddie waved him off, but Marcus saw his eyes. People had different ways of saying love. Some said it with words, some with keys to a rusted truck. One cold January morning, Marcus drove alone downtown before work. Snow fell lightly. The city looked silver and hard under morning light. He parked near Lower Wacker and walked slowly beneath the road. He wore a warm coat now, good boots, gloves with no holes. His phone battery sat at 92%. Still, his body remembered. The damp smell, the echo of tires, the sharp wind through the tunnel. A man slept near the same pillar where Marcus once slept, wrapped in blankets, backpack under his head, one hand visible, cracked and red from cold. Marcus stood a few feet away. He did not stare long.
He knew how that felt. He walked to a nearby coffee shop and bought 3 coffees, 3 breakfast sandwiches, and 2 bottles of water. Then he came back and set them near the man gently. The man opened one eye. You good? Marcus asked. The man stared at him suspiciously. Marcus understood that too. Just breakfast. The man pushed himself up slowly. Thanks. Marcus nodded. You got somewhere warm today? The man shrugged. Library, maybe? Harold Washington? Yeah. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. If you know basic repair, come by tomorrow. The man squinted at the card. I ain't got nice clothes. Neither did I. The man looked up then, really looked. Marcus said nothing more. He walked back toward his truck. Behind him, the man called out, What's your name? Marcus turned. Marcus. The man nodded once. Mine's Ray. See you tomorrow, Ray. Marcus drove away with tears in his eyes. Not because he had saved Ray. He had not. A sandwich was not salvation. A business card was not a miracle. But a door had opened, and Marcus knew what one open door could mean. That afternoon, he caught his reflection in the shop bathroom mirror. Fluorescent light buzzed overhead. His beard was trimmed now. More gray showed than before. Small lines sought beside his eyes. His face looked older, but not lost. He leaned closer to the mirror. For the first time in years, he recognized himself fully. Not the man before the fall. Not the man under the bridge. Not only the man who climbed out. All of them. Together. Marcus touched the edge of the sink and breathed. The mirror did not give him back his youth. It gave him back his truth. He was not proof that pain disappears. He was proof that pain can become a place you walked through. That night, the shop hosted its first community dinner. Nothing fancy. Folding tables, paper plates, fried chicken, mac and cheese, green beans, store-bought pies. Shelter workers came, tenants came, employees came with families. Leonard came wearing a coat Marcus had bought him but pretended not to. Denise said grace over the food while kids whispered and giggled. Jenna stood beside Marcus near the coffee table. His daughter came home from college for it. She hugged Leonard like family. You still writing? Leonard asked Marcus. Marcus tapped the old notebook on a nearby table. Always. Leonard grinned. Good. Rich people forget stuff. Marcus shook his head. I ain't rich. Leonard looked around the room. Food, warmth, people laughing, workers paid, family safe, doors open. Then Leonard looked back at him. Depends what you count. Marcus had no answer, because Leonard was right. Later that night, after everyone left, Marcus sat alone in the quiet shop. The smell of fried chicken and coffee still hung in the air. Crumbs covered the floor. Chairs sat crooked around tables. His daughter sat beside him, wearing a college hoodie. You tired? She asked. Very.
You happy? Marcus thought before answering. Yeah. She smiled. Good. He looked at her. You remember asking me when things would get better? Her face changed softly. Yeah. I hated that question. I know. Not because you asked. I know. He looked around the shop. I didn't know the answer. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You found it. Marcus shook his head. No. She looked up. He smiled faintly. I built it. She nodded slowly. Then she took his hand. For a while they just sat there. No big words, no speech, no lesson.
just a father and daughter inside a warm room that once felt impossible. The next morning, Marcus opened the black notebook to the first page. Get back up, written 20 times. Some letters angry, some weak, some barely readable. He turned pages slowly. Old business names, debt notes, food lists, court dates, cold nights, ideas, plans, prayers he never called prayers. Then he reached the newest page. He wrote one final sentence there. Leave doors open behind you. He closed the notebook and placed it in the top drawer of his desk. Not hidden, not displayed, kept. Some things should stay close, not because they hurt, because they made you honest. Marcus Reed's life did not become easy. No true life does. Bills still came, employees made mistakes, trucks broke down, families still needed patience, old fears still knocked sometimes during quiet nights. But now, Marcus knew something fear hated.
He knew he could answer the door without letting it move back in. He knew a man could lose nearly everything and still keep one small ritual, one phone call, one notebook, one promise, one reason to stand up when the concrete felt easier. He knew shame grows best in silence, so he stopped hiding the story. When young workers asked where he learned patience, he told them. When shelter men asked if work could really change things, he told them the truth. Work helped, people helped, choices helped, time helped, grace helped. But nothing helped until he believed his name was bigger than his worst season. That was the thing he carried now. Not pride, not anger, not proof for people who doubted him. Just a steady truth. A person is not finished because life put them outside. A person is not worthless because a paycheck vanished. A person is not weak because they needed help. Most Americans are closer to the edge than they admit. One hospital bill, one missed rent payment, one bad winter, one person leaving, one car breaking down at the wrong time. That is not shame. That is the truth of being human in a hard place. But another truth lives beside it. One good choice can survive a terrible day. One kind person can keep a soul from closing. One open door can become a hallway. One hallway can become a room. One room can become a home. And sometimes the life waiting for you is not behind the door you lost. Sometimes it is behind the door you build with tired hands, honest work, and the small piece of hope you refuse to throw away. So when the night feels locked and your strength feels gone, remember Marcus under that bridge. Remember the cold. Remember the cracked phone. Remember the notebook. Remember that he did not rise because he never broke. He rose because even broken things can still hold light. And maybe that is the question every person must face at least once. What door will you keep knocking on, even after life tells you nobody is coming? The story is now complete.